Hello class and welcome to this Contra 3 SNES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and Contra has never been better than here in Contra 3 The Alien Wars, but my word have they doubled down on the difficulty this time around. Similar to another game we just did a class on, which you can check out via the playlist in the description, Final Fight 2, they've introduced a difficulty level setting in the game, which I simultaneously appreciate and resent. On the positive side, it's nice that you can finally pick your difficulty so more people can enjoy the game, but on the painful side, similar to Final Fight 2, you can only achieve the complete ending if you beat this game on the hardest difficulty, or in this case, hard. Now on easy mode, I'd probably give this a 4 out of 10, similar to how I handicapped the original Contra, assuming you had the spread gun for the majority of the game. On normal, I'd probably give this a 6 out of 10, more challenging, but they actually give you 2 more continues, or 5 specifically, to use to help you defeat the alien army you're up against, and most of the game is still pretty manageable. On the hard difficulty we'll be playing on and covering for the purposes of this Contra 3 walkthrough, I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to writhing on the floor, cursing in tongues, and if you've tried this on hard mode, you probably know what I'm talking about. Don't worry though, Blaze is going to help you choose your arsenal with a weapons overview, and Fluff is going to share some fun facts about this game, as well as a hack to earn yourself some easy extra lives in a couple spots. But Gary is probably going to be the star of this class, as he'll be giving us detailed guides on taking down every notable boss in this game. Honestly, some of the bosses and small stretches could probably ratchet this up to a 10 out of 10 at times on hard, but I'll stand by the 9 as you still have 5 continues on hard mode. And you can also start out with 7 lives if you choose, not to mention get those extra lives I referenced, but I digress. I'm probably just buying time here, but we've got a lot to get to, so let's run the intro and get into this Contra 3 The Alien Wars walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, Contra 3 is wall-to-wall action from the very start of the game, so much so that we literally will not have time to get this in if we don't do it right now, so we're going to go to Blaze before we get started to give us an overview on the guns here in Contra 3 The Alien Wars.
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky. I was thinking about ranking the guns here in Contra 3 The Alien Wars, but honestly, they all have their uses in different situations. So instead, I'm just going to give you a rundown of each of these. Counting the default machine gun, which hopefully you'll never have after the beginning of the game, there are 6 guns here in Contra 3 The Alien Wars. I grouped the first 3 as a good option to keep in your first lot, as these weapons are better for taking out large groups of weaker enemies, the kinds of regular enemies you'll encounter in most stages. These include the aforementioned starting machine gun, which is fast and travels the screen, but is weak and narrow. A much better replacement is the homing gun or spread gun, the former firing fast and seeking out enemies on the screen. This one feels like a cheat code at first, until you realize just how weak it is. But it's good on big groups of weak enemies, so you can focus on dodging without worry of aiming. The spread gun, formerly my weapon of the game in the first 2 Contras, is still a very serviceable weapon. It doesn't fire quite as fast as the previous 2 guns, but it's a bit more powerful and spreads across the screen. It also gratifyingly has a decent power to it, and when you get close to an enemy or a boss, landing all 5 shots with each shot does a lot of damage. The second half are good guns to keep in your other slot, particularly for use on bosses, as Gary will mention, as these are much more powerful, but they're narrower and require more accuracy in most cases. The crutch gun is tied with the laser as the most powerful. It only goes about halfway across the screen, and you can only have 3 shots on the screen at a time, but each shot results in a lingering explosion. The laser is just as powerful, but is more narrow. It goes across the screen, and you can only have 1 shot of it on the screen at a time, but on the overhead stages, it delivers a short, concentrated beam, the most powerful weapon on these stages. I can't give out a best gun of the game award as everything is situational as the Briggs notes state, but I could still give out a comeback gun of the game award to the fire gun. A round of applause for the fire gun class as it went from absolute trash in the first Contra and mostly forgettable in the second to arguably being the most fun to use as it delivers a concentrated, constant stack of short-range flames which you can whip around you in all directions. Its damage isn't on the level of the crutch or laser guns, but its ability to permeate walls can be a big help, especially in the top-down stages. Lastly, we have the screen-clearing helio bombs, which max at 9, and the barrier shield, which is relatively rare and lasts about 9 seconds.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Good call. We'll keep that in mind when choosing our weaponry in the game. As we set our difficulty to hard, I want to point out the difference between the two different two-player modes. There's A and B. The difference only manifests in the top-down stages, but A is split-screen mode, B is shared screen mode. So in B, you two are tethered together, can't deviate too far from one another on the same area of the stage, whereas A, you can free roam wherever you want, so just want to point out the difference there. But as we begin a new game, let's take a look at the controls for Contra 3 The Alien Wars. Jump with B, attack with Y, you just hold it down for automatic turbo. Everything's turbo in this game. Switch weapons with X, bombs with A if you've got them. Most importantly, hold L and R together to pose, and then add in Y to the equation for what we like to call party time here on Video Games 101. You'll never use it practically, but... Oh, Fluff, I'm told you already have a fact you want to share with us?
Unfortunately, there's no version of the Konami code, or any codes for that matter, which can be applied to the North American SNES version of this game. Still, there are a couple spots in this game where you can earn extra lives which, in case the professor didn't adequately convey in the opening, is extremely helpful in completing this extremely difficult game, especially on this difficulty. The most famous spot is later on at a boss called Garth Base, so you might top yourself off when you get there. But here early on, with either the spread or a homing gun, you can set yourself up on a platform and just blast away in safety at the enemies who appear from the sides on the bottom. You can't check your score except for in between levels, but you'll earn an extra life every 50,000 points you score.
Good call. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, these dogs are worth quite a bit of points, the ones that come after you. I like to use a bomb right here because this is a deceptively hectic little area right there. Guys shooting at you, guys throwing explosives, the dog comes chasing after you. By the way, one of many differences between the difficulties here in Contra 3 The Alien Wars, but if you play that on easy mode, none of the dogs will come after you, I don't think. But on hard mode, all the dogs come after you once you pass them, so. But again, they are worth quite a few points, so if you take all of them down, you should have at least one extra life by now. Grab ourselves this sweet tank and just run it over everything. We're invincible while we're in here for the moment. Doesn't last too long, as you can see. You can tell that was about to wear out, but let's take a look at the Briggs notes for this Contra 3 walkthrough, the keys for beating this game. First, ABF, always be firing. Again, it's automatic turbo, so just hold down that Y button, no reason not to. Have the best gun combo for each area. Blaze mentioned the importance of having like a wide hitting gun like the spreader or homing gun, paired with, in your other slot, a more powerful gun. Use Gary's boss beaters. Don't be precious with your bombs, use them when you need to like we did just a minute ago. Fluff just talked about stocking up on lives, but let's go to Gary for the first time already.
It's Scary Gary's boss beaters.
Alright, if you stay in the left, this mini-boss can't even reach you. So post up here, just fire away with your gun of choice, preferably one which fires straight ahead. Just move closer once he backs up to avoid that arc of explosives. Not difficult.
Thank you, Gary. Something tells me we're going to be going to him quite a bit today. Early on in the game here, you can see we can get by with the combo, a couple of the weaker weapons in the spread gun and the homing gun. I do like the concentration of the shots when you do get them all in close on that spread. It is pretty powerful, as Blaze mentioned, but yeah, later on in the game we'll be prioritizing more of the laser, the flamethrower, and certainly the crush gun as well. Just time these jumps, not too difficult even on this difficulty, to avoid the flames. Just wait for the opening. Don't get greedy. It's like something out of Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu right here. You can drop down in the flames immediately while they're still flamey. And then grab yourself a couple bombs, and it's time to take on the first end-of-stage boss here in Contra 3. Gary, what do we got?
Boss beater.
Alright, the first proper boss here in Contra 3, the Alien Wars, is dirt simple on the easiest difficulties with the right weapon, meaning something that fires straight and is powerful like the laser. The spread gun also works well if you get close to its weak spot in the chest and just blast away, but on the easiest difficulty, yeah, you can destroy before it fires any bullets. On the hardest difficulty, like the Professor's playing on, all the bosses take a lot more damage, so you need to stay on the left, transitioning between the top, middle, and bottom levels of the platforms. When that boss gets ready to fire that flame attack, you gotta get up to the top. That's the only way you can be safe, or the only place you could be safe, avoiding those bullets he fires at you from time to time. Use those bombs if you've got any stored up to take out those enemies he fires at you, and then just be opportunistic, getting those shots in from the bottom when you can. Retreat to the top when that flame attack's coming. Repeat this, take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, the spreader is kind of nice early on in this game for clearing out those baddies. And mentioned this in the controls, or showed it in the controls, but didn't expressly point it at. Man, that's a great shot. There's Arnie, or their interpretation of Arnie, Mad Dog there. Double fisting. Yes, hold R to stay in place as you aim, rather than running around. Makes it a little bit easier. I like to start here on level 2 in the top left spot for efficiency's sake, as it's roughly the shortest route, plus getting up on this first pod and firing away to take advantage of our temporary invincibility. Watch out for these sections, which are showing wear as they're about to crumble away and will quickly kill you unless you walk on that sweet spot, which is found by finding the break in the cracks, no pun intended. Let's go to the southwest one now, and this one's a little shy, so you need to look away, hold down L to turn left, and then once he pops out, hold that R button to turn and get some shots off as you back up. On the hardest difficulty, which we're playing on, these pods all have their own little quirks, and they're much more difficult to take out. So this one just pops out intermittently and shoots in all directions, not too difficult, just stand back and fire away to take it out. The fire gun is very nice for shooting through walls, as Blaze mentioned on these stages, as is this barrier shield. This one's shy, this one only pops out when you're not firing at it, so if you don't have that shield, just back up a little bit more. Don't shoot when he pops out and shoots, just kind of back up and dodge and use a ranged weapon there. And then this last one's kind of like that third one, it just pops out intermittently, but this one spins in a circle when it does pop out. There you go, yeah, those enemies are quite a bit more difficult on this difficulty than they are on easy, in which case, yeah, they don't really discriminate, they just pop out, and once you get that last one, we'll be taken to the boss, at which point, Gary?
For Metallican, you can get close early on to do some devastating damage to his pods with your laser, crush gun, or whatever you've got. Just back up when he starts spinning, and begin moving left or right to get out of the way when he's about to charge. Regarding those pods, I recommend focusing on them before his laser, as he'll typically start jumping once that laser is gone. And when he drops back down, it's the remaining pods which are more likely to hit you. Still, when he flies up, just commit to a direction and keep moving in it as he touches back down. Repeat this strategy until the pods and laser are gone, and blast away at his eye, which is the actual weak spot, and take him down.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, I love the laser on these top-down stages in particular. The flamethrower is also nice, but yeah, nothing competes with the power of the laser, which has a different look. It's more like the fire gun, actually, on these top-down stages, a very powerful concentrated blast. So now he'll probably mix it up now between charging at us as well as flying into the sky there. So as Gary mentioned, you can see how fast he comes down, and if we hadn't taken out the pod, that would have crushed us right there. So very important to neuter it, and very important to party time at the end of this stage. Just ridiculous, over-the-top, epic levels of action here in Contra 3. I love it. There's nothing like it. I hadn't played this one in a while, if I'm honest, ahead of this class, and I just forgot how fantastic this game is. Top to bottom. Have so much more experience with the titles on the NES for the Contra series, so It's very good. So now we have our flamethrower and enjoy it here in these side-scrolling stages, and it is a lot of fun. I think it probably is the most fun gun in the game. I wish it was more powerful, but then it would be a little too powerful, I suppose, compared to the rest of the weaponry. Yeah, even instances like that where you just have a single shooter up on a platform, they're more difficult than you might imagine on this difficulty, with the speed of the bullets having increased considerably versus easy mode, but the fire gun's not quite powerful enough to take out these enemies reliably on this difficulty, so I just like to spam a couple bombs to get us to the next mini-boss. Gary?
The fire gun is great on Chrome Dome, as it allows you to stay on the wire and hit him through his armor. The crush gun's explosion can also hit if used right, otherwise you need to jump on the arm and spin around, firing when you're at the 6 o'clock position, hopping off before you hit the drill when it's out back at the top. Most importantly, be ready to jump off the arm or stay to the side, as when it explodes it will spin wildly as it slowly drops, even forcing you to grab on if you're already on the wire.
Yeah, that's a nasty surprise if you're not familiar with that boss, and you kill him a little bit too close, and yeah, it does force you onto one of those bars and drags you down to your death, but it's just one boss after another here in Super C, and right now we're just gonna use our flame gun or fire gun to extinguish these missiles. I'm not sure that's the proper terminology for it, but it's working. And we'll just crawl up here. I don't know why I'm getting Mega Man 2 vibes from this section, like one of Wily's stages. Once we go high enough, we'll actually be able to battle him, so let's go to him now for some more tips on this one. Gary?
Boss beater. The Tri-Transforming Wall Walker is an intimidating boss, as he's got us trapped underneath him between his legs. Once again, the fire gun works well, especially at the start, as you're climbing to take out the missiles. Once he opens his eyes, he'll do a couple fake charges. Take this opportunity to get as many hits in as possible with your best gun. Once again, the fire gun is good for ensuring you don't have to be too accurate, as it'll still hit. After this, he'll generally charge, so stay at the top to bait him up there, then start descending at the last second like we show. Repeat this process as he begins to go wild card, mixing up fake charges and real ones to hopefully take him out fast. He's tough on this difficulty.
Everything is. Thank you, Gary. Just climb up past these bullets and then be ready to do some needle threading here at the top. Grab that laser if you like. There's a crush gun coming up as well. You should have one or the other for the boss after this boss. Good music here, by the way. It has a kind of a Capcom feel to it, like something out of Mega Man Soccer, but this is that boss Fluff was mentioning earlier. Gary?
Boss beaters. Fluff referenced this earlier, but this is another great spot to grind extra lives. Just staying on the left side of the screen, facing right, and waiting down the shoot button to grind for up to 29 lives while you make a snack for yourself. Just make sure you're fully up against the left side of the screen before you try it. In terms of taking the boss down, if you've still got the fire gun, then you can just chase the boss back and forth, as the flames will take care of most everything this boss throws at you. You can also just stay in that left corner, hold R, and fire diagonally up when the boss comes over, making sure to shoot the enemies as they come at you. Not difficult, however you approach it.
Yeah, the fire gun's probably the most reliable here for simultaneously dealing damage and taking out the baddies. Yeah, there's something very familiar about this piece. Feels very Capcom to me, but anyway, if you didn't grab the laser earlier, if you lost it at some point in between, make sure you stop off and grab this crush gun right there. I'm going to replace the spread gun with it. That's the Steam I have for the crush gun right now. I know we're going against Blaze's recommendation, but I guess that's also the Steam I have for the fire gun as well. It's too much fun. By the way, you can post up in front of that door and hold down the attack button to grind a whole bunch of points there as well. But Gary?
Boss beaters. Hopefully you still got that crush gun we just got, but at the start of this battle, get to the top left and fire away. I'd say prioritize the red one because he's the one who likes to grab onto the ceiling and fire at you, but you don't have much control over that. Thankfully, he'll come over to you just the same, and most of the time you'll destroy him with that crush gun or a laser before he gets any shots off at you. Now climb to the center of the ceiling and keep firing down, as neither the blue robot nor the legless versions of either one will be able to hit you there.
And then immediately, once again, Gary.
Boss beater.
Robo-Corpse is all about nailing the perfect timing, especially on hard. Begin the battle on the yellow hatch and fire down with your gun of choice. I once again recommend the crush gun or the laser. Once you see those eye lasers shoot out, drop down and go clockwise around the boss, dropping down again, then stopping just around the 7 o'clock position, just next to where the flames will stop, where you should begin shooting up again. It's extremely difficult to get through this stretch without dying, as the flames move much faster on this difficulty, plus you might need a bit of luck from the tracking lasers. At this point, the boss will fire out a bunch of quickly detonating explosives, so quickly climb back to that yellow hatch spot from the left wall. Now just repeat those first 3 steps, and if you've done enough damage, you won't have to worry about the cycle again. And here's a bit of Video Games 101 lore. At 9, I think that's the most instructions I've ever given for a single boss.
How about that might be on the end of your exam? I love that shot, by the way, of just the bug coming down, just ugh. All right, another stage with, well, a lot of bosses to be sure, but at the crush gun, we can stick with this for a bit. You don't have to worry about the bikes actually hitting you, but them dropping the bombs, the mines, the grenades, what have you, that's another story. So make sure you jump when you see one come down to avoid getting hit. But let's go back to Gary as we have another mini-boss coming up here right at the start.
Boss beaters.
I like some heavy firepower for this mini-boss, like the laser or crush gun to put them down faster. You can take out their missiles with a powerful enough weapon as well, so you'll just have to worry about jumping and firing, or firing up to take out the flying baddies.
Thank you, Gary. And the massive gunship comes down here. Just work your way in between those shots. Got an opportunity for a homing gun, but I'm going to stick with the fire gun for this stretch. I think it's good for taking out these turrets and just finding an opening with the snake arm here. And this isn't too dissimilar from the little area we just, what was it, the Garth Base? I think that's what it was called. Same basic concept right here, but I think the fire gun works well for taking out that little barrage of enemies coming out at you and a bit more needle threading. And the soundtrack gets me fired up. Perfect for being fired at, which is happening this entire game. Taking out the massive gun right there. And back to Gary. Surprise.
The fire gun is good for taking out the missiles without too much accuracy, but I also like the laser or crush gun from the left side, just plugging away at the face until it goes down.
Good call, Gary, and let's bring him in early for the next one.
Jeez, this level is just one massive boss rush, so the rocket ninja comes in from the bottom left, so I like to hang on to the far end of that missile. Yes, we're hanging onto a missile. We'll talk about that in a minute, but fire on the boss as he flies up and attaches. He'll either spin back and forth beneath you, in which case you should keep transitioning to whatever side he's not on, and fire at him in the face when he pulls himself up, jumping a half second or so after he does, as he'll throw a sword in a boomerang pattern at you. With the laser or crush gun, you'll make short work of this guy and move on to the very memorable final boss of this stage.
Hey, how about we go back to Gary?
Anti-Contra Battleship Dodriguez gets my first ever award for most epic boss here in Contra 3. It's also one of the tougher bosses, as you can burn a lot of lives here if you're not careful, especially if you're greedy and linger near the front for longer than you should, and just like that, the missile you were holding on to is gone. As such, the strategy is to stay in the back and fire at the top and bottom weak points at the start. The spread gun or homing gun are probably your best bets here, as they allow you to stay in the relative safety of the back of the screen while still getting your shots in. The main thing is to be careful about picking your time to jump effectively so as to not jump into the fire spray from the bottom turret. Eventually the barrier will give way and you can start aiming for the core. Just keep an eye on where the boss's shots are coming from, as they won't always target the closest one to them, and it may be your lifeline. So again, stay in the back, don't be greedy by staying too far up front, and you'll take them down.
Did we survive, class? How is this not one of the best SNES titles? Who's gonna argue with that? With shots like that. Just absolutely amazing. We'll bring in Fluff to share some background on this game in just a moment when we finally get a chance to catch our breaths. Actually, the next kind of proper boss that we have coming up at the end of this stage, it takes a while, so we might actually have a window to get some background from Fluff. And this is the same idea as the second stage, the first top-down stage, where you just got to take out the 5 pods. The behavior is a bit more straightforward this time. Laser can be very, very powerful against enemies, as mentioned before. Watch out for these little bridges. I like to avoid them altogether. They explode very quickly. If you have the right weapon, and you just kind of walk on the very edge of that right there, it's a little sneaky. You can do a double tap on the L or R to try to stay on one of these little twister spots with a bit, you can avoid them altogether as well. That's probably what I would recommend. You can see that little spider having a tough time with it. There you go. It's kind of stuff that'll do your head in. Especially when we have to deal with that when we get to the boss. But we do have a brief moment here. Just be very careful with these kind of sand conveyor belts around these pits. But let's go to Fluff for a Fluff fact kind of relating to this stage, actually.
The 2 top-down stages in Contra 3 make use of the SNES's Mode 7 graphics capabilities. This is something I've talked about before in our classes on SNES titles which utilized it, but the name refers to the SNES's 8 graphics modes, which are numbered 0 through 7 for displaying different background layers. The final layer, Mode 7, is a single layer which can be rotated and scaled to create a faux impression of a third dimension without processing any polygons. As I've said before, you can see this in the cinematic shots of Samus flying her ship across space in Super Metroid, to how a lot of racing games like F-Zero and Super Mario Kart rotate and scale the track around you. Konami's use of Mode 7 here in Contra 3 was heralded for its implementation and helping to keep the gameplay dynamic and giving players a completely different feel in the top-down stages.
Good call, Fluff. Thank you very much. Very cool effect. I like how they used it. Alright, got a tough one here. Gary, what do you recommend for this one?
Boss beaters.
Alright, Anthell gets my award for toughest boss here in Contra 3, at least on this difficulty. The first part isn't too bad. In fact, once you harvest a laser, if you don't already have one, it's especially easy to pick off the worms, which always come from the same opening, assuming you never move left or right. Each worm will drop either a gun or a bomb. Before going for the eye, I highly recommend stocking up on bombs until you're maxed out at 9, so you can use them once things get crazy. Also, make sure to grab a homing gun from one of the worms, then when you're ready, laser the eye until the floor begins to spin. At this point, back up just far enough so that your missiles can reach the eye, and double tap L to get just the right angle like the professor will show, and fire away and launch your bombs. Backing up is necessary to avoid the flames, worms, and worst of all, accidentally picking up a different gun. This is a mental as well as a physical test, as you need to keep repositioning and turning yourself to get those hits in and avoid projectiles. If you can get through this one without losing a single life, you have my respect.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready for this yet. Gonna grind for some more bombs, and we gotta grab that homing gun as well. So Fluff, how about you share some Fluff facts about Contra 3 The Alien Wars?
Contra 3 The Alien Wars is a 1992 run-and-gun title developed and published by Konami. And yes, it was named Super Probotector for its European release, with a robot sprite swap once again, though I'm betting Robo-Corpse was safe from any kind of makeover. This was once again done to avoid being indexed by Germany's BPJS board, which worked to keep violent or graphic content in all forms away from kids. Something I discussed in length in our recent kind of mini-class on Probotector. They even dropped the war from the subtitle, renaming it Alien Rebels, but anyway, I'm done talking about Probotector. Contra 3 The Alien Wars serves as the third title in the series after Contra and Super C for the NES, and it's the debut of the series on the SNES. This is the first title in the Contra series to be directed by Nobuya Nakazato, who began work at Konami in 1988 as a graphic designer, beginning with Castlevania's 1989 Game Boy title, Castlevania The Adventure. Feeling that the original Contra titles had a low-budget action movie theme to them, He wanted to really lean into that over-the-top aesthetic and the tropes associated with it to give his first directed title an immersive, hectic, and at times comical cinematic feel, from the visuals to the epic soundtrack. A clear example of the vibe he was going for was that earlier scene featuring the player hanging from a missile as it flies through the air to its target. Earlier, Gary mentioned it felt like a boss rush. Well, that was basically by design, as Nakazato felt that the traditional format of facing a collection of repetitive weak enemies followed by a boss again and again was mundane. So he endeavored to ensure that every few screen scrolls the player would encounter something unique. Nakazato's novel formula was very well received by critics and players alike, as Contra 3 is heralded by many as being one of, if not the best title in the series, and one of the best run-and-gun titles of all time.
Hard to argue against that. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, I'd say Nakazato, he achieved his goal and then some. And hey, how about this? We got in an entire Fluff fact and background on this game ahead of just while we were prepping for this boss. Just want that last helio bomb, if we can get started here. Putting some shots via that laser into the eye, but come on, we've also grinded a lot of lives in the meantime as well, or some lives certainly. Again, hopefully we will not end up needing them. Alright, here we go. I think it's time to start the party, put in the damage on the eye, and away we go. And now just, as Gary mentioned, double tap that L button to slow down your spin. Yeah, the spin is out of control on this speed. It's pretty easy to stay in place with this mechanic on the normal, or certainly the easy modes, but yeah, here we're just using that homing gun. Weak as it is, it's just the safest option for staying in the back here, and that was our last helio bomb. It's just, oh my goodness. Oh, this game is fantastic. There's no other way to say it. It's destroying my brain right now. I feel like I'm in a hall of mirrors while being hunted by this thing on top of it. Just trying not to take this first death here. It takes a while, again, given the weapon, but it's a lot easier also than trying to get in place with a laser or a flamethrower or the crush gun, whatever you got. Oof. A lot of those flames getting a little close for my liking. And yeah, if you don't stick the direction you want with the double L the first time, just let the spin take you and try again once you've gone about 270 degrees. There it is. Oh my goodness. That's the most satisfying, I gotta say. That's far and away the most satisfying boss to take down without losing a life. Alright, maybe the final boss. Or one of the final bosses. There's a lot of final bosses in this game. But we're very happy with that. 540,000 points. You'll see they count the rest. They count 0 as a life. That's why it says 12 there and 11 here. But here we are on the final stage. Good to be stocking up on a couple of these. Didn't necessarily mean to grab that, but that's fine. We'll make it work. The spread gun here late in the game. That's alright. His tiny little arms. Yeah, it'd be nice to stock up on a couple more of those bombs. Yeah, I'll take the crush gun. Got our Ch right there. CH. And this all looks very familiar. I actually don't mind the homing gun here. Kind of working back and forth between the two. For what it's worth, I believe you can pause the game and switch your gun while the game is paused if doing it mid-game is too brain-breaking for you. I just say that because it is for me sometimes. Scary.
Boss, you know it's a tough game when the final boss from the original game is just a warm-up act. He's arguably tougher than in the original Contra, at least on hard mode when the buggers spawn much faster. So I like to use a bomb at the start to buy ourselves a precious second or two to crouch down and take out the bottom 2 nests, minding the top buggers who fly in. Use another if you need to until you get it down to just the 2 nests up top, at which point you can attack the heart and any buggers who drop in from a distance or clear out their nests with relative ease before finishing the heart off.
That is the technical term, in case you were wondering, buggers. Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, it was my time at the end of the first Contra after we took down that heart, but nope. As Gary mentioned, just the warm-up act, and yet another one right here. Gary, once again.
Boss beater. Oh, the final boss from the original Contra wasn't enough. Now we gotta worry about the one from Super C. Sorry, I know Fluff doesn't like that name either. You want to stay in the back. Just jump on the claw when he charges. In the back of the screen, you'll generally see less projectiles dropping down, so you can thread the needle as the professor says. Just be ready to jump when he gets his shot off near the end of the projectiles. After you do enough damage, I find the Crush Gun's explosions work well for easily making contact safely at a distance. He'll sink into the ground. Charge up to the front of the screen to force him to pop up here, then retreat back to the left and avoid his jump, then repeat the first 3 steps once again until he's done.
There you go. Thank you very much, Gary. And you know what? Don't go too far, because... Gary?
Boss beater. The Crush Gun we just got is very useful for its explosive radius, which penetrates the tail and does a bit of damage. In the first phase, it's very similar to the Tri-Transforming Wall Walker. In fact, he's easier as he's slower. Just bait him to a spot, then drop down like we show and repeat. When he's warping, or starts warping, it's basically the same strategy. Just stay far enough away to avoid the tail, repeat with the Crush Gun, take him down.
Thank you, Gary. How many times have I said that today, class? We are actually coming up on the final stretch here now. Just a few more bosses to go. And hopefully you have the weaponry which you need at this point. Because, yeah, the Crush Gun and the laser are a good 1 and 2 at this point as well. Yeah, the homing gun, probably won't get a lot of mileage out of that. There is 1 fire gun left, which I probably will take in place of the Crush Gun, but, Gary, help us out, will ya?
Boss beater. We already got the final bosses of the first 2 Contra games as sub-bosses here. Why not the final boss of the arcade version of Super C as well, an Emperor Demon Gava? In this first phase, reflexes are key. If both heads come at you, you can duck right into the center to avoid damage like we show. If only one side comes at you, run to the opposite side and jump like the professor does here to bait it up and create enough room for you to lay down in the corner. No matter how many heads come at you, pick one and fire when you get an opening with your best gun, hopefully either a laser or Crush Gun. When there's only one of the 2 heads left and the boss retreats up, shoot the one enemy who comes out of the hole, plus the flying creature on the other side. Now just jump to bait the remaining head when it comes at you to buy yourself some corner crawl room, and get shots in at the weak spot on the head when the right head does a short attack or is returning from a long attack.
Excellent work, Gary, and yeah, one last truly tough boss here in Contra 3. Gary, almost sorta take us home.
Boss beaters. The penultimate boss, at least on hard mode, is basically a roulette wheel of mini bosses. As the wheel spins, the orb you shoot will determine the boss's next attack pattern. Now, if you've played on the easy mode, you'll find that half of the modes don't even appear. It's actually not too difficult to prioritize the safer modes, as the wheel moves fast, but not so fast that you can't pick what you want. Note that the speeds and direction will vary sometimes, but once you get a feel for the timing, you should concentrate on getting the better orbs. In order of best to worst, I first like the Thorn Orb, which gives you a ton of power-ups, while you can stay to the side to avoid projectiles and get shots in, noting that you may very well accidentally swap out your gun. Next, I like the Brain Orb, which is easy to avoid if you stay on the side, taking out the shield the mini brains make, and getting shots in on the main brain. Next is the Stone Orb, which on this difficulty sends a pair of 3 stone orb chains walking towards you, and perfect jumps are required to clear them both. This could be one of the most difficult, but if you run to the side at the start, then take a small step backwards to the center and lay down, you should be safe, not to mention being a great spot to stack some damage. Next, the Walker Orb, which the professor keeps drawing, is easy enough to stay in the center of. Just be aware that abrupt changes in direction that it can do. As in the case with most of these, just get shots in where you can. Next, the Eye Orb rains down a bunch of eye orbs, shocker, which can be dodged or destroyed with a powerful enough gun. It's very easy to lose a life on these last few, so avoid these at all costs, starting with the snake orb, which goes up and down in, you guessed it, a snaking motion. In this case, you'll find that if you keep inching to the left or right, you can stay in the opening each time, though its speed make it difficult to avoid. The shield orb creates a circle of orbs around you, which contract until they kill you. Your best bet is to lay down and time shots with your best gun at the ever-changing 3 or 9 o'clock position orb until they're all gone, though it's difficult. Lastly, and arguably the most dangerous, is the blue orb, which is similar to the eye orb, only these projectiles can't be destroyed and they're less predictable, making it extremely easy to get through this without losing a life. Did I say easy? I meant difficult. Focus on 1 through 4 and take this boss down.
I'm brain drained too, Gary. All good. No pun intended. That's a nice shot there, by the way. Anyone else get Super Metroid vibes from the animation and the brain and everything? But anyway, I promise for the last time, Gary, take us home.
Boss beaters.
This really is the final boss here in Contra 3, and thankfully this exclusive to hard mode, it's much easier than most of the bosses in this game. You can even just hang at one side of the missile and fire away with your gun of choice at the start to put him down before he gets a single attack off on normal mode. Use whatever bombs and gun you like and just alternate between the left and right sides as the boss flings its arm up in a desperate final attempt to stop you. But you're not going to let it stop you, class, so keep it up, and congratulations, you've beaten this game and seriously earned my respect.
Thank you very much, Gary. You've truly outdone yourself today. Excellent boss beaters all around. Couple lasers for the return trip and an extra life there at the end. I gotta say, we've done a lot of no-death runs here on Video Games 101. This is amongst the sweetest. This, had to put in the work for this one. One last time, flying away on a missile, this time toward the ending. Way to go, you've conquered the toughest Contra challenge yet. Your heroic deeds have restored peace to a war-torn world. The alien forces have been destroyed by a gaming champion. Your efforts will not be forgotten. A monster, Some nice shots of Schwarzenegger and Stallone there. I'm sorry, Mad Dog and Scorpion. Just kind of poking the brain there. It looks like Schwarzenegger there on the left. I guess that's worth the difficulty. I don't know. These extra Polaroids are... Stallone got off easy this time, if you ask me. This was all Mad Dog. Excellent title, though, top to bottom. Excellent work from all my TAs. Again, especially Gary. I think there's no doubt about that. But yeah, that's our time. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in Video Games 101. There he is, Nabuya Nakazato. Yeah, please consider subscribing to enroll in these classes. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. Really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Is this your favorite Contra in the entire series? Or are you a bit more partial to the original on the NES? Are you a Super C kind of person? Or any of the others? I know Hardcore of the, or Hardcores, whatever you want to call it, on the Sega Genesis, which Nakazato also directed, I believe. I know that's a favorite for a lot of people as well, so might have to check that one out. Might have to break our non-existent no Sega games rule. We don't really have that rule. We've played Sega games before, just not nearly as many, obviously, as we do tend to focus on Nintendo and Super Nintendo for the most part. But excellent title, top to bottom. I'll say it again, nothing like it. Most epic of all of the console gaming experiences, maybe on the SNES. Need to figure that one out. Give out the most epic game award. This would be in the short list for sure. But as the music crescendos here. Contra 3, the Alien Wars, a peaceful time will come. Shoot that dog! It's still hard mode, look. That's not a normal dog. I'm sorry. Guy in the tie. Little kid running around. Just us giving an awkward thumbs up. There you go. Yeah, you really dropped the ball, Stallone. We'll see you next week. right here in the same spot for next week's class, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.